Hey everyone, welcome back to the Whitewater podcast. This is episode 4, and it's the podcast where we have light conversation, we share a beer with a guest, and we talk about everything important related to beer, the outdoors, sustainability, and much, much more. Before we go any further, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the little notification button so that you get made aware every time we post a new exciting video like this. Today, I'm very excited. We are having a drink with Liam Smedley, who is a former Team Canada athlete, as well as a Whitewater Brewing Company sponsored athlete. So, welcome to the Whitewater Podcast, episode 4, A Drink with Liam Smedley. Okay, so welcome, Liam. Thank you very much for joining us. For everybody watching and or listening, Liam is a former Team Canada athlete that we also had the pleasure of sponsoring for a couple of years. So we'll get more into that shortly. But welcome, Liam. Thanks very much for coming.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, super happy to be on, and great to connect with you guys again. It's easy to feel far away from the valley, living in downtown Ottawa these days. So it's great to see your face and connect this way.
Yeah, for sure. Normally, what's just such a simple drive and no concerns. Now you've really got to plan out if you're able to come at all. So for sure. The way we always kick these things off is first of all introducing what we're going to be sipping on while we chat. So why don't you tell us what you picked today to have a drink with?
Nice. Yeah, I've just got the classic. I've got Farmer's Daughter sitting with me here. Just super smooth, and I think it's these days. There's lots of things that can be unpredictable in life, so sometimes I'm keeping it real with the classics. But
Yeah.
I heard there's maybe a new one hitting the shelves soon from a little bird, so I'm interested to hear more about that too.
Yeah, for sure. We actually have two big releases coming up. One is seasonal and one is permanent. But so yeah, I mean, on your beer, I completely agree. Sometimes it's just nice to go back to that blonde ale, easy drinking. You know what you're gonna get, and no big surprises, but delicious
Exactly.
at the same time. Yeah. But yeah, like you say, some new releases coming up, and I have one of them here this evening. This is our low-hanging fruit. So we will put a picture of this up on the podcast probably. This is another sour beer of ours, and this is going into the LCBO as early as next week. It is a pomegranate and blackcurrant sour. It's funny how I always have to look at the can, even though I definitely know what it is. But
Yeah, I hear you.
pomegranate and blackcurrant. So lots of amazing, juicy fruit flavors. Low-hanging fruit is the name because that's what both of those fruit do. They grow on little low bushes, and our can design, nice, green, vibrant, with all those bright colors in there from the fruit. So
Nice. Can't wait to try that. The sours, it's all in these days with the sours.
I know, right? 2 years ago, we'd never brewed a sour, and now they're some of our most popular sours. It's crazy. I have cracked this open, so cheers, and
Cheers.
thanks again for joining us. So, the way we typically kick off the questioning element of this is just with some quick fire. Some of these are standard with every guest we have on, and some of them will be tailored maybe a little bit towards you. So if you're ready, just first thing that pops into your mind, doesn't matter what it is.
I gotta warn you, I'm always bad at these, but I'll try and go quick.
Okay, cool. I'm terrible at it, which is why I like being on this end of it. So all good. So first question, favorite Whitewater Brewing Company beer?
Oh, with the new ones, who's to know? It's gotta be I think Astrolab IPA. I think that's gotta be my favorite.
Cool.
If I'm like of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And favorite non-Whitewater beer?
Oh wow. Oh, this there's just so many to think of. It's gonna have to be. Oh, we'll just go with Dominion City Sunsplit IPA pineapple beer.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, fantastic choice for those listening that don't know it. Dominion City in downtown Ottawa, and it's an amazing IPA for sure. Okay, favorite Whitewater Brewing Company meal in one of our two pubs?
Oh,
Because I
it's
know
gonna.
you've been.
Yeah. We've definitely. I've decked out probably both the menus. I won't tell everyone that, but now it's on the podcast. I think it's got to be. It's got to be French toast at Lakeside.
Nice.
Yeah, when
In the
that's coming in.
brunch, when we do our brunch, yeah,
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
all about the brunch.
Nice. Yeah, me too. Okay, so moving away from like Whitewater stuff, your Netflix show of the moment or other streaming service.
Oh, I mean, in a pandemic, this is just the ultimate question.
Right.
I gotta
Exactly.
say, the last thing I watched that absolutely just like sunk its hooks into me was The Queen's Gambit. Oh, that thing
Yeah.
that just got me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Savannah and I think we watched that like certainly within a week, if not less. It felt like anyone. So yeah, that was awesome. I also saw that like chess sales went up exponentially
Oh
after
my
that show
God, that's
released.
hilarious. It was pretty
Yeah,
cool. It really got you into it.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, best kept secret in the Ottawa Valley. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. What's it gotta be? You know, it's so hard to not get away from the cliche of the whitewater opportunities in the
Yeah,
valley. It's definitely got to be. Oh, you know what? I won't go with the Ottawa River, but I'm gonna say the Lower Madawaska. It's
oh, cool. Yeah,
a lot of people know the Middle Mad, a lot of people know the Upper Mad, and getting around there. But just running the Lower Mad on a weekend, it is so friendly, so much fun, and
yeah,
right in the heart. So that place
yeah.
is great.
No, I couldn't agree more. Just a no stress, awesome trip down for sure. Okay, next one is your bucket list goal, or one of
Okay.
them. Yeah,
Well, this one was on my mind actually this week, or bucket list items were on my mind. I was thinking about a couple I need to check off. So
yeah,
it's fairly specific, but so one of my kayaks that I own, my freestyle kayak, it's actually a Necky Vibe. So a little old school there.
yeah,
And one of my
yeah.
bucket list items is to go out and surf the Skookumchuck Narrows. If for everyone who's
Nice.
familiar with those waves
Yeah,
in a Necky Vibe, because I think that's got to be the boat to do it in. So anyway, that's one of my
for sure.
things.
Yeah, I actually, this is way back 2009, I think. I got a chance to go out to Skookumchuck. And for those watching that have no idea what that random word means, it's a section, it's a river estuary in the on the west coast, sort of in the BC Sunshine Valley area. And yeah, just when the tide changes at the right time of the year, it creates this amazing, smooth, glassy wave. And so I'm guessing the Necky Vibe is nice and fast, and you'll be carving around on the smooth, glassy wave. Is that right?
That's the idea. Oh my goodness. So one day I'll have to check that one off when I get out there
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it's absolutely awesome out there. So definitely agree with that bucket list goal. Um, okay, obviously we're going to be talking a lot about summer activities. So what is your favorite winter activity outdoor?
Favorite winter one. So many things to do. The thing that I'm kind of getting into the newest as of last year, I just got into some backcountry touring. So I'm in
Nice.
the split board category and doing a bit of that. So it's super fun. You know, you spend all day hiking up a hill or a mountain just to come down once or twice, but it's really the process. So having a lot of fun
Yeah,
with that these days.
earning your turns, right?
Yeah, as it were, little carbon neutral skiing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I haven't been able to get out to do any ski touring in the last probably going on 10 years, sadly. But when I lived out west, I did a lot of that as well. So yeah, awesome. Two more questions left in the quick fire. We've got A new skill or activity that you've picked up in isolation. If it is the touring, then so be it. But if there's something else,
In isolation. Hmm. This one is hard. I'm gonna say, uh, you know what? I won't run away from being a part of the mainstream. I started baking bread. I'd never baked it before, so I think I just have to admit to it. I baked
yeah.
some bread. It was one of my skills.
Have you tried baking any beer bread yet?
No, tell me more.
Okay. Yeah. So we've definitely done it in a Cooking with Beer with Chris episode on which is on YouTube. I don't know if you saw those. They were a pandemic reaction, just getting some creative content online. But baking bread, obviously, like you say, a lot of people went to entertain themselves. And yeah, there's some amazing beer bread recipes out there. Um, and it's super easy. You just replace any liquid basically. So whatever liquid you'd be using, depending on the recipe, replace it with beer, and you're golden. So Farmer's Daughters is a great addition to your bread recipe.
Wow, I'm gonna have to try that this weekend. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, and it's not like one of those cooking recipes where you kind of like add beer and um yeah, I can kind of taste it, like maybe, but not really. This is like it's a noticeable change for the better. It's really cool.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah. And finally, what is your favorite sort of camping activities? When you go camping, what do you like to do?
Oh man, I think this one is a little niche. I'm going to say the number one thing I like when I'm camping, because it doesn't really happen outside of that time, is sitting around the fire and hearing people's stories. People story tell when you get out camping. You're sitting in the woods, the fire's going, you got nothing but time, and people just go off about their different adventures or things they've done, and that's got to be my favorite part.
Yeah, I would agree. If I was asked the same question, I would say the same thing. It's kind of what led to us starting the brewery as well, which was cool. We were on a kayaking trip through the Grand Canyon and sipping beers around a campfire, telling stories and looking at the can label on the can, and that's what got us down the road of we should open a brewery near the Ottawa River. So yeah, good things happen around a campfire for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, awesome. That was the quick fire round. So thanks very much for tolerating that and answering all those questions. Okay, so moving on to sort of the main line of questioning and a main little chit chat. Um, I obviously didn't. I mentioned it in the introduction, but I think what would be a great place to start is if you could sort of start explaining to our audience how our relationship sort of started and where we kind of became aware of each other and through what activities, and just tell a little bit of a story about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I think it was a really natural progression. I think so. My brother and I, Cam Smedley, we have a sort of a brand together during our competing years, Smedley Canoe, and I think it must have been the end of 2017, going through to the winter, the start of 2018, and we were sort of on this hunt. So in canoe slalom, the sport that we participated in, there's not a whole ton of, it's not like F1 or, any of these big sports. It's not exactly one of those Red Bull sports. It's a little more low key. And so we're trying to drum up a little bit of sponsorship and opportunities to get some paddling gear that was going to be expensive coming into that year. And the reason was there was this new evolution in life jacket technology where the life jacket was like sewn into the tops, and these things were like $500-600, and we were like, no way we can get these things by the time spring comes around. But we really, we want to be on par with the Europeans and the rest of the world that are like really pushing the limits of canoe stall. And we said, how are we going to make this happen? So we went around and we made some different pitches, and we are sort of pitching to a couple of companies, and we weren't getting a lot of traction. We were having a really hard time, and we're kind of getting down. And we said, you know what, like, who can we reach out to? And we just started, you kind of think back to your roots. And the pair of us were from Dunrobin, sort of that middle ground valley area between downtown and the Deep Valley. And we thought, who's around? We're like, we were just at the brewery. We already wear red plaid all the time. These guys, it's all over their brand. Like, we like beer. We're like, this is a sure thing. And so we just sent off the email out of the blue. It must have gone through whoever got it, sent it off to you. And I remember the message we got back. It was the most unique thing I ever experienced as an athlete, trying to look for support. Was it said, "Hey, you guys have been on our mind recently. Actually, we were wondering how we could support you." And I was like, "Oh my God, hallelujah! This is awesome." So Chris and the gang was just absolutely the Hail Mary for our 2018 season, and they covered the costs for our equipment that year. And we were covered in red plaid, head to toe, just absolutely like beaming with pride from the Ottawa Valley, like rocking the Whitewater logo on the international stage. And yeah, that's kind of how things got started, I'd say.
Yeah, that was super cool. I loved seeing all the pictures of you guys in the gear for sure. And it was funny, like, because we had, like, honestly been talking about it. And one of the big things about us starting the business was we want to make sure we're contributing to the communities, and whether that's geographic local communities, or whether it's sort of local communities through the sports and activities that we love. Um, so it was perfect timing, and we were super happy to support it. And those pictures, like I say, were awesome. We'll make sure to get some of the pictures up when we post this podcast, I think.
Yeah, it never
I'm
got
making
old.
I'm making all these promises about what we can do, like add a picture of the can in, and we'll post these pictures with it. I have no idea if Tristan and Savannah can do that. I'm sure they can.
Yeah, someone else has got to figure it out. I remember it was like the talk of the
Yeah.
town. It was like sporting the plaid gear, and everyone was like, "Who's your sponsor?" And I was like, "If you knew them, you'd understand." And it was it was such a good time.
That's awesome. So obviously, the water and water activities, kayaking, canoeing have been part of Smedley family lifestyle um, throughout your whole upbringing. But tell us sort of how you really got into just the love for being out on the water, and how that sort of transitioned into competing.
Yeah, it was I mean, and again, like, it was sort of one of those things that you have a hard time remembering when everything started. I know my parents, they're both into whitewater paddling, open boating, kayaking, and slalom boats at one point for my mom a while ago. And yeah, they sort of linked up. And once they had a few kids, the easiest thing to do with a bunch of kids is just throw them all in a canoe. You just stack them into the middle, give them some paddles, whatever. So we started canoe tripping like at such a young age. I think my first trip, I was maybe 6 months old. We had this like cradle in the bow of the canoe just in front of my mom's knees, and we had the dog there and the two other kids. So we just started canoe tripping kind of nonstop every summer. That was kind of what we got up to. My dad was a teacher, so he had the time off, and we'd just get out and pretty much spend the whole time around the water. And I mean, really looking back, there's a lot you can get into as a kid and do and see your friends and stuff. But to just have the opportunity to spend that much time around the water in the summer and with your family, it was a really fun time. So that's really how it got going. And then as we got older, you kind of start looking to different competitive sports, and then you think every summer you go out paddling. I think a few of us took a couple of courses at Madawaska Canoe Center, famed Valley Kayak School,
Yeah.
and we linked up I think with a race and met up with a coach, and it just kind of took off from there. My sister started racing, my brother started racing, Allison and Cam, and then I was 5 and 8 years younger, respectively. And so I started at around the age 8 or 10 or something like that. And my older brother, was doing canoe singles rather than most people would typically get into kayak, just sort of the basic one. And I saw that and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll do that too. So we actually did pretty much identical. We both paddled left side on the canoe singles, and just kind of took off from there. We just kept at it, and all the way through to sort of trying out for that national team.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll get more into that shortly. For sure, absolutely. Um, Lots of the viewers, they would hear canoe and kayaking, and they've seen it on the Olympics. But can you just give us a brief rundown of the difference between canoe versus kayak?
Yeah, super simple, or at least to what someone who's so familiar with it, I say that. But kayaking, you're sort of you're sitting on your bum. You've got your feet out in front of you. You typically have your knees tucked in and some kind of braces to help you control the boat. And then you've got a paddle with two blades on either side. And yeah, you just kind of paddle off from there. Kayaking is sort of the basic one that a lot of people will recognize a little more easily. And then canoeing, on the other hand, you got kind of open canoeing, which is your really classical canoe, typically maybe a two-person canoe, one person in
Yeah,
front.
when someone says canoe, that's what your instinct goes to, for sure.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. And then you got closed canoe. So in the context of canoe slalom, where Cam and I were competing, it was closed C1s, and so for that one, you've got your calves, your legs, sort of folded under you. It's a little awkward to describe, but you're pretty much sitting on your knees. If you just sort of get on the ground and sit on top of your knees, that's sort of the position. Then you've got a single bladed canoe paddle, and you're strapped in. You got a spray deck that goes on your boat to keep the water out, and people tend to switch sides sometimes, or they'll actually do a cross bow, and it looks rather awkward. But I hope that's a rough picture for some of the listeners there.
Absolutely, no, that paints it really well. As you know, I love whitewater kayaking, so this kind of seated position, two blades. And my business partner James, who started the brewery with us, he's always been an open canoer, even in whitewater. And we traded for the day, and I couldn't believe the sort of how uncomfortable and the pain it was on my knees to be in that semi-kneeled, semi-seated position. But obviously, the more you do it, the more flexible you get in that role, and you get used to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's
It
definitely
was,
one of those sports they say you don't grow old doing it. You switch out, it tends to be. But
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think I was late there, and it came from having had a couple of beers and me saying, "I can do that, no problem," blah blah blah, and then struggling through a day on the river of, of doing it for the first time. So it was a lot of
too good. Well, I'm sure that's satisfying. That's usually how canoeists go. They're like, "Yeah, give it a try," and then you get to see them have a
yeah.
little go at it. It's pretty funny.
Oh, James still tells the stories to this day of that occasion. So
I'm
yeah,
sure you'll have to have them on the podcast to give the story.
that's a really good idea, actually. So we sort of transitioned into competing, and both you and your brother Cam competed with Team Canada, as you mentioned. What was that like? Tell us
Yeah,
about that.
it was a super unique experience. I think sort of having coming up to race lines and thinking that you've worked for so long and put in so much energy into getting ready for this one moment to race. It was sort of nice and, like, I don't know, encouraging, reaffirming. Like, you get out there and you'd also think, okay, this is for me to see what I can put down, see how fast I can go, see where I can place today, and see how well I can paddle. But it's also about, like, okay, like, this is kind of for Canadian canoeing. What can we put down? That is, how fast can Canadians go? And I always found one of the coolest things for me in representing Canada was that was unique about canoeing in competition was each sort of paddler from each country was sort of going to paddle in a style that was representative of the rivers they came from. And I always thought that was so cool. So, we've got some really big whitewater in across Canada and these big canyons. And it was interesting to see how that would cross over into different artificial channels and that type of thing. But yeah, it was a super special opportunity to have that. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a high pressure scenario, but very rewarding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've not in kayaking or canoeing, but I've had my fair share of competition, and it's amazing that pressure scenario and how it sort of can focus the mind and everything else is really cool. Um, so we're not afraid to ask the tough questions on this podcast.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. No, it's something I know you're happy to talk about. Obviously, you were kind of forced to retire from competing, due to an injury. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was. it was the first time I ended up dislocating my shoulder was in 2014. It was at the under 23 World Championships in Australia, and I wasn't paying attention for a split second just after I'd finished my race, and I kind of flipped over a little awkwardly, and that's when things happen, is when you're just not paying attention for a moment. And yeah, it came out, and that was a pretty hard experience. It was super painful, and I had a bunch of people jump in, grab me, pull me out of my boat, and the whole process, get it back in. And I ended up coming out of that one, getting an MRI, and the damage was pretty significant. And that was my first year sort of competing on the senior team for Canada. And that was a bit of a crossroads for me back in 2014 to say, okay, wow, this is going to be a big surgery to get my shoulder back in a position where it's going to be strong. It's going to be ready to go fast again. I could risk having this happen again if I keep competing with it. So I ended up racing with a brace and taking it pretty easy over the summer. And I took surgery as soon as I could get it. And then I ended up kind of coming back in that next 2015 year, and it was super rewarding. It was a long process, but I think it was one of those things that you kind of get injured, you get knocked down, and it's nice to have a goal. It's nice to have something to work towards. So it was great to kind of make that comeback and build from there. So no regrets. It was awesome. I ended up coming back, had a really good next 3 years of racing with almost no issues. But flash forward to around February of 2019, I was in the gym and doing a bit of an awkward core exercise, and I dislocate my shoulder, the same one again. And that was definitely one of the hardest nights that have gone through, just sort of knowing you're redoing this process, how much damage has been done. And it was a really scary thing. And then I ended up, going in, having them take a look at it again, another MRI. And they said, we can't really tell what's post-surgical kind of stuff left over from before and what's new from this dislocation. But it actually looks like it's not too bad. But, we don't, it's hard to give you a clear answer on this. If you feel good, you kind of train up, you get it strong again, you get moving, then it could be good. But if this happens again, it could be that you're going to tear the repair from 5 years ago. And it's hard to say, how secure we're going to be able to get your shoulder again after that point, because then it just kind of starts to get looser and looser. I'm sure a lot of paddlers who have had that similar injury.
Sadly, I am one of them.
Oh, there you have it. I'm preaching to the choir here, but
yeah, I've got the. I like to tell people it's a bullet hole, but really it's just the scar on the front and the back of the shoulder. Yeah.
I've got the same. Man, we're just discovering new things we have in common. This is too fun.
Know.
Well, that puts a nice spin on the story. But I ended up taking. I missed the senior trials in 2019. I just didn't feel like safe enough going to those, and to keep my shoulder in. So I ended up taking a different path. Went to a race down in South America once I felt ready for it, and then kind of out of a bit of luck, I ended up qualifying for the Pan American Games down in Lima, Peru, and that was a huge opportunity for me. I mean, to get to go to that really big multi-games experience, and kind of put it all out. It wasn't going to be on a really big course, not really big whitewater, so I was kind of able to manage the risk that way. So I finished out the season. I was able to race, and it was kind of at a point where I've been racing for quite a long time, and it was that time when I was like, well, how much risk can I do with this shoulder and keep racing? And I just finished university, and it's just one of those moments where you make a judgment call on what you want to do next in life. And I kind of wanted to free up some of my time, take on some adventures, and give it a rest. So I decided to move on from racing just then at the sort of fall of 2019.
For sure. No, absolutely. And one of the things I've always found tough with injuries, and unfortunately I've had my fair share of them, but is sort of the uncertainty and the strength and your sort of confidence level in that joint or whatever the injury is. And that can really mess with your mind when you're out paddling in whitewater or whatever you're doing. And that's one of the toughest challenges I've always had with some big injuries, for sure.
Yeah, it's a totally different dynamic, sort of having your head totally straight with you and like, okay, judging the rapid, like just paddling some of these things is a bit of a challenge. And then you start to question your own ability and like little things in yourself. And you're like, wow, yeah, makes you second guess sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So you've done some work with Athletes Canada, um, which is sort of championing athletes in a new way for yourself. What's that like?
Yeah, that's been a huge opportunity. I joined the board of directors for Athletes Can just in the fall of 2018. I got elected onto the board by my peers, and it's been a lot of learning about how to work, in the Canadian sports system and advocate for national team athletes, sort of across the board. But a lot of topics these days that are really impacting amateur athletes for Canada is sort of ensuring there's a safe environment, safe both in sort of the general risks of sport, but just in any way that athletes are kind of vulnerable in different ways. They're traveling, they're exchanging with a lot of different people. So safety in sport is a big thing. Freedom of speech is a big thing. There's a lot that we sort of try to speak up about and make sure that the athletes have that voice. And I think I'm really proud of the opportunity to contribute in that way with Athletes Can be an independent association that represents that voice. Then there's not really any influence to push our opinion or push the needle for how we speak up about different things. It's really we collect, we speak to the athletes, and then we speak up for them. So yeah, it's been a really rewarding experience going through that, and it's sort of going through the organization is pivoting right now, and some exciting new things coming along. So I'm excited to have that come out pretty soon.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize, and I it wasn't really forefront of my mind. Why would it be? But until sort of speaking with you guys and hearing about it, but that there isn't a lot of support for a huge amount of prospective and current athletes. Unless you're in some of the biggest major sports, um, it can be a lot of behind the scenes work and without the full support that you might expect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a grind. I think if you ask any national team athlete for a Canadian national team, ask them how it is. Like, how's the grind? How is it? How hard is it? And then they'll be like, yeah, no, it's good. Like they'll give you sort of the front facing answer, but really ask them a second time and say, how hard is it? Like, what's the challenges and how much funding do you have? And a lot of them are going to say like, I go into debt sometimes to be able to fund my season. I'll do different things, just tooth and nail to come up with fundraising ideas or different ideas to get through the season to find some support. So that's where, I mean, we were incredibly lucky to have businesses like you that wanted to support local athletes, and that's really the bread and butter of the Canadian system. But we're definitely waiting to see a bit more support for Canadian athletes come through. That will kind of make it a little more sustainable to represent the country and also just compete on the world stage. You're there to win, and it tends to cost quite a bit to try and get those medals.
And realistically, like if we want, if Canada as a whole wants athletes competing on that world stage, you really want the athlete focusing on the sport versus how am I going to afford to get there, or how much debt do I have to go into to be able to enter this competition.
Yeah, you nail on the head right there. I think that's it. Is you want them to be able to focus what's on hand, and I think the thing for me that I'd love to see change in the next while for Canadian sport is that we don't just have that top one or two people that you're going to see make the Olympics end up getting the funding and sort of that support all the way through to make sure we have someone in contention. But you're going to have like 3, 4, 5, 6 athletes that are well supported, so you have a team, you have a sustainable ongoing process, you're keeping them along, and they're able to push each other. So to have that funding go that deep where people are able to just be supported enough to train well, focus well, and keep that up. But absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Obviously, we're talking about other athletes. How is your brother doing? And tell us maybe the path that he's on.
Yeah, well, I'll try not to speak too much for him at any point, but I think it's a crazy time to be still active. So for people that don't know, my brother Cam, we competed with each other on the national team in canoe slalom singles for Canada. And I retired just at the end of 2019, just as my brother qualified for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Now, of course, rebranded 2021. So I think the honest answer is it's definitely been hard for a lot of them, for all the people who are still chasing that dream and still chasing Tokyo. For Cam specifically, I think the Canadian slalom team, they're headed over to France shortly, and they'll do their self-isolation once they get there. 2, 3 COVID tests, I can't count how many. And they'll just sort of, they'll do their isolation, and then they'll be in a really isolated area in Po and training on the Whitewater Center there. And they'll be there, I think, until the Olympics start. So they'll go straight from there to Tokyo, so that they're sort of able to limit that travel. They're still able to train well on an artificial whitewater course, but And then I think it's just sort of a wait and see game right now for the Olympics. There's, I think they've got
For
some
sure.
timelines for when to make some calls, but trying times for everyone, as it were.
Absolutely. I mean, if he's going to be there, we'll be tuned in and watching. So yeah, absolutely.
Fingers
A little
crossed.
bit. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
fingers crossed they've got the brewery maybe open. Who knows what's in the future, but
There
throw
we
it up on
go.
the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So slight change of topic anyway. Um, you'll know this as an outdoor enthusiast generally, and I'm one too, and sort of throughout the community, sustainability is really important to all of us, or most of us anyway. Um, how does it weave into sort of what you've been doing, and maybe some of the stuff that you've done to help protect the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's we really all have it's cut and clear these days. I mean, the future and what's been reported, and these next few years, the next decade, it's huge. It's like turning that curve for carbon emissions. And for myself, I think I really focus on, what's my footprint locally? How can I reduce that? Trying to make action every day and to see, how can you do it? Can you bike to get groceries? Can you carpool? Not as much of an option these days, but all these little things that aren't even new things, but just making them happen can make a big difference. I know one thing I ended up doing this year was I signed up for the Protect Our Winters challenge, and they've got a challenge out for people who want to just learn more about acting sustainably and living sustainably. So definitely encourage people to check that out. And aside from that, I'd say, just go to wherever you paddle. I know I think about, like, okay, I like to paddle in the Ottawa River. I like to do a lot of paddle sports. I like to bike around the city, like to go camping. And so one way I like to try and get out is supporting the Ottawa River Keeper. They do a lot of good work supporting the community, and then kind of just going and doing some local river cleanups. I know you guys do one down in the valley, maybe on Foresters Falls or something like that. You guys are doing one?
Yeah, we've sort of mixed up location, but yeah, we've done river cleanups sort of both on the river and just on the surrounding roads as well. And it's amazing how much sort of garbage you find. And these are the rivers and the outdoors that we want to play in. So yeah, it's important for us to help out and clean them up and make sure that it's going to be as beautiful and pristine for those that want to do it after us, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I know we do one down at the pump house, the downtown Whitewater course that everyone walks by and go, "Wow, what is this place?" And
Yeah.
we do one there, and we collect a crazy amount. And I mean, all those little things add up. And I think if
Yeah.
everyone's thinking about where you get outside, what you do, how can you give back to that, there's almost always like a local association, someone to support that, whatever watershed you're in, or whatever mountain you're climbing or biking on. So I think just really getting involved and speaking up, getting out to vote, all the little things that can add up.
And
And
normally it can be pretty social if you do it with a good group of people, and to go out paddling afterwards is a great celebration. So it doesn't have to be this big thing where you're picking up garbage for weeks on end.
yeah, exactly. I know
Every
one of my
every little bit helps.
Definitely. One of my favorite things that I know a friend does is they have potlucks where it's a don't buy anything new, and tends to be a little more vegetarian. Kind of eating that plant-based diet can help the climate as well. And
Yeah.
they say take whatever's left in your fridge on Sunday night and have a potluck with a bunch of friends, and reduce food waste, have a bit of plant-based food, and then it's social, and it's a little get together, a
Yeah.
little party, and
That's really cool.
it's a nice
Yeah,
opportunity to
I
do.
haven't done anything like that. I would like to try that. Mainly to empty the fridge, but
Exactly. Everyone's got that guilty thing they're gonna have to throw out, and it makes you use it for something.
Yeah, absolutely. So final question before we wrap up. How can, the average Canadian better support Canada's athletes, so that we can continue, watching you all compete season after season?
Oh, it's I think, there's actually a relatively simple answer to this. Well, I got two answers. It's twofold because I can't come off the podcast without saying probably buy Whitewater beer, because there's going to be another paddler that's going to be up and coming. The Whitewater Brewing Co. is going to say this guy's got to go to the World Championships. They're going to need support. So let's say that one
Yep,
first. That's definitely it. But
for sure.
the Canadian Athletes Now Fund, CAN Fund, that organization does so much for athletes. It is a charity. You can get a charitable tax receipt if you make a donation, and they will connect you with the athlete that you end up supporting. The people I've received CAN Fund. My brother's received it multiple times. It's night and day. It is a huge help, and so essentially all the funds you donate go straight to athletes. It's going to be $6,000 checks going out to them, and it's just such a big help. So definitely look up CAN Fund, and that's got to be the way that you can really directly support athletes. And
I'll
otherwise,
make
just
Yeah, sorry, I'll make another one of these promises that we'll have it posted on the screen or in the comments or something like that, so that people can easily find it.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I think that's got to be the way to go.
Awesome. Um, that's everything I had as for questions, Liam. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you, hearing about your story, hearing about Canada's athletes and the whitewater sports that maybe people don't or aren't aware of as much. So really appreciate your time. Do you have any questions for me at all?
Any other projects in the works? Beers? We can get any sneak peeks? Well, we know the two that are coming up, but I hear there's some
Yeah,
gin in
so
the mix.
well, exactly. So we've got, like I said, the low hanging fruit is releasing next week in the LCBO as our spring seasonal, and as I've been drinking it, this is actually the first can I've had. Unlike our Blood Moon, which is the blood orange sour, that one has sort of a really nice smooth sour base beer with a hint of blood orange. This is really blackcurrant and passion fruit forward, and then a nice smooth sour finish. So kind of the flipped reverse, what you're getting first. So it's really cool. A little bit different from the other sours we've done, which is great. We have going permanently, well, a new permanent brand for us, a New England IPA, which is called High Tide. And that's going to be releasing within the next sort of week to 10 days as well. Well, actually, no, I say that it will be in LCBOs in the Ottawa and Ottawa Valley area as of this weekend, even.
This weekend. Wow.
Yeah, so as a Sunsplit lover, I'm not saying it's going to replace your drinking of Sunsplit. We're not trying to do that, but this is an alternative that we've taken the longest ever to develop this recipe. It's been in development for over a year, and we're super super happy and excited with it. So that's the two beers, and then like you say, we launched our Paperboat Gin and Whitewater Distilling Company, a new division of the business, back in August September. That's going really well. Available on LCBOs as well, and directly from us. And we have some cool gin related products, maybe in this sort of format, that are in the works. So that's all I'll say for now.
Well, I hope everyone listening can interpret your shape of the can there when you're
Yeah,
describing it. So funny. Well, that's
yeah,
awesome.
a
Looking
little
forward to
sneak
that.
peek. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to pick one of those up and I'll flip you a photo of trying out that high tide. That sounds awesome.
Let us know what you think. We want the honest opinion. So,
Absolutely.
as we always do.
Cool. Well, it's a
Awesome.
total treat to hang out with you and get to chat, Chris. So great to catch
Yeah,
up.
been a pleasure. Thanks again, Liam.
All right. Take care.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks once again, Liam, for joining us on episode 4 of our Whitewater podcast, A Drink With. Such a great interview, and it was really awesome to catch up and hear your interesting story. In other great news, we are allowed indoor dining again in Renfrew County and the Ottawa Valley. So our Lakeside Brew Pub is back open once again for indoor dining. Of course, everything COVID friendly, COVID safe. And I'm very excited to say we're celebrating on March 4th with our quarterly Brewers Dinner. For those of you that don't know what that is, it is a 5-course meal curated by our head chef and our brewmaster, where each course is paired with one of our beers, and we guide you through the evening on a fantastic experience. So that's March 4th. The theme of this one is very apt for this time of year. It's comfort food. So lots of exciting, comforting, delicious meals throughout the evening. We do run these Brewers Dinners quarterly, so if you miss out this one, our next one will be in the spring. Next up, as I mentioned in the podcast with Liam, 2 exciting beer launches with low-hanging fruit going into the LCBO as a spring seasonal, as well as High Tide becoming a new permanent brand for us. And as I mentioned, that's the beer where we've taken the most amount of time to develop it, and we're super excited with the results, and we think you will be too. Please pick it up, let us know what you think, tag us online, and we'd love to hear your comments. In other exciting news, we have just launched our Riverside small batch subscription pack. We upgraded our brew system down at the Riverside Brew Pub. That's our original location for those of you that don't know. And we will be releasing every month between 2 and 4 new beers that we brew down at the Riverside Brewery in very small batches, specific to this subscription pack. There's lots of subscription options available, so please head to enjoywhitewater.ca, follow the links through to Brewery and then our store, and you'll see all the exciting new options in that subscription pack. Just to confirm, that beer is only available in the subscription pack, and the orders have already been flying in, and we got lots of subscribers signed up. There is also a ton of other benefits of becoming a member, so make sure to check that out. That's all from us here at the Whitewater Podcast. Thank you one more time to Liam. It was a pleasure having you on board. Thank you everybody for watching and or listening. As you know by now, you can find this podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And obviously video online on YouTube. So thanks again, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.